have another question about the relationship of unregulated capitalism to environmental problems. And it seems like unregulated capitalism is based on a system of production that requires a certain amount of raw materials and resource extraction. And this kind of production system is innately linear. And I'm wondering how you feel that this linear production system can exist indefinitely in a world where we have finite resources. And then also if you could just say a few words about free market approaches to approaching climate change and carbon trading, things like that.
Okay. So I'm not sure what a linear production system is, but you need raw materials, and you process raw materials, and you turn them into inputs into the production process, and then the production process, you innovate and you produce stuff that we all buy. We consume that stuff, and then we trash it, and then we start again with raw materials. So that's kind of the linear process. Let me just say, and this is it might be controversial, but it's not original to me, and it was established, I think, by economists a long time ago, that there is no such thing as a scarcity of resources in the world, and certainly not in the universe. There's only one resource, in a sense, that's scarce, and that's human ingenuity. It's the human mind. What are we going to run out of? Are we ever going to run out of, people say you're going to run out of oil. Yeah, but oil is not the resource. What do we need? Oil is just an input. What do we actually need? We need energy. Are we ever going to run out of energy? How can you run out of energy? You can't run out of energy. You might be able to run out of oil, but there are other things you could produce energy from, and the ultimate would be, for example, the sun. The sun is going to be with us, hopefully, forever, at least for the equivalent of forever. And it's just a matter of how do we technologically harness the sun, let's say, if that turns out to be the best source of energy. How do we technologically harness the sun to produce the things that we want to produce? And the same is true of any resource. And when we run out of a particular metal or something on Earth, well, there's an entire universe out there to explore and to mine and to, what do we call it? Exploit. I love the word exploit. Exploit out there. We could go to other planets and exploit them and ship all the raw materials back to Earth. You could create science fiction, but even if I'm primarily interested in my own lifetime. Maybe my kids. Beyond that is science fiction to me. There's no limit on the amount of resources on Earth in my lifetime and my children's life. None imaginable. We haven't even touched the very surface of the Earth. Never mind started to go really deep into the Earth and discover the kind of resources that are deep down there inside. Now, it'll cost more to get there, but we keep creating more wealth, and better technology, which will make it easier for us to dig deeper and deeper. But, there's no limits. And I'm not for recycling. I think recycling is incredibly wasteful and bad for everybody involved. But there's a healthy type of recycling. For example, metal from automobiles is crushed and melted and reused elsewhere. There's a whole industry to take things that really are recyclable, the way there's an economic interest to recycle, and to recycle them. So it's not even like when I, decide to go with the next generation of iPhones, the iPhone's just going to be trashed. There are probably elements within the iPhone that will be reused. So there's not only is there an equivalent of an infinite amount of resources in the Earth, at least from my lifetime and my children's lifetime's perspective, there's all the stuff that we could recycle. And if the economics work, I'm not against recycling things like paper. I think it's silly right now when it doesn't make any economic sense to do, and indeed it actually reduces the number of trees. You know that? The more you recycle paper, the fewer trees there will be. And the equivalent is this. If you eat less chicken, will there be more chickens in the world or fewer chickens in the world? The more chickens you eat, we eat, the more chickens there will be. Because it's a renewable resource. You can just grow chickens in a sense, right? You breed them. The more wood we consume, the more trees there will be. Because the greater the incentive to go out and plant more and more trees. If we start reducing our consumption of wood, what will happen to the planting of trees? It will decline. And there'll be fewer trees in the world. So if you really care about trees, you should consume as much wood and paper as you can. It's not funny. It's economics 101. It's supply and demand. So I don't believe in the whole problem of natural resources, and I really recommend reading Julian Simon, who is a great economist who died 5-6 years ago, maybe more. but wrote a number of excellent books on exactly this issue. And he's the guy who really, I think, coined the term, the only resource that we're in short suppliers of human ingenuity and human minds, and how to figure out to extract these resources. And even oil. How many times have we been told over the last 50 years that we're running out of oil? Probably 50 every year, right? I mean, but what happens? For example, right now the price of oil is really high. So what does that provide an incentive for people to do? To go find oil where they couldn't find it before because it was too expensive. So they're going to drill deeper in the oceans. They're going to drill in more remote places. Okay, they're taking tar in Canada, this yucky, gooey stuff, that was very expensive to turn into usable petroleum. Now they're taking it and they're converting it because at $100 a barrel, it's economic. And there's more tar that can be converted into oil in Canada than there is oil in Saudi Arabia. And think about how many decades we've got still in Saudi Arabia in terms of oil. And then there's all the tar in Canada. So we're not going to run out of oil in my lifetime, probably not in my children's lifetime. Not to mention the fact that because of government intervention, we don't use nuclear power, which is clearly an indefinite source of energy. I mean, it takes nothing in uranium to light up a whole city. So let's build more nuclear power plants, and it's clean, no pollution, right? And that's where we would be if we, under capitalism, we would have a lot of nuclear power plants today under capitalism. But we're not allowed to, by government controls don't allow the building of nuclear power plants. So that was question number one.